Hello, everybody. Welcome back to my personal film school series, PJB Film School. I have been thinking today about a couple of movies that I've always liked that are disturbing. The last video I talked about on this channel was Come and See, which is very disturbing, and I recently was reminded of it as I was looking at an Instagram video that had taken a snippet from the film that was pretty suitable for work and then shared it on my For You page. And if you just look at the clip by itself, it's a girl dancing on top of a box in the rain. And it's pretty innocent looking when you isolate it like that. But if you know the context of where it comes from, it's extremely disturbing. And one of the reasons why I used to like disturbing movies, I think, is because I had a certain level of detachment about them. And this is something that happens when you get older. I like to share a story about when I was working in a grocery store. It was the first full-time job I ever had, and I was in my early 20s. I think I was like 21. And it was the first job that I had after I started to have some mental health problems. And I found this community of folks at Weaver Street Market in Carborough, North Carolina. And this job was so formative for me, and I made some wonderful friendships with my coworkers. And I remember there was this woman named Jackie who was a volunteer who worked in the produce department with me. Jackie was an older lady, and she would wear a mask often. And this was long before COVID, but she would wear this mask because she was kind of germ conscious, and she would wear it in the back room. And then when she brought out the bags of dried fruit onto the floor and stocked them in the baskets, she would leave the mask on. But she was a great conversation partner, and we had a lot of similarities between us, me and Jackie. And then I remember we were on the topic of movies, and we talked about The Clockwork Orange. And I think I don't know how we arrived at that particular film, but it's a film that I've seen a lot. And we were talking about it, and she was talking about how when she was a teenager, she went and saw Clockwork Orange, and she laughed through the whole thing. It was just like a nonstop comedy for her. And then when she watched it as an adult, like years later, it's like she couldn't stomach it. And isn't that interesting? Because I haven't seen it in like a year or so, but it always struck me as a very dark comedy. And I think that one of the reasons why I had a certain detachment towards the film is because I'm a man, and there's no sexual violence towards men in that film. The violence that's in that film that's sexual is directed towards the female characters. And I had a measure of detachment about it. And the way that Kubrick handles that material, it is with an absurd touch. I would say that. He actually mingles the violence with humor and with satire and with art, and it, in some senses for me, made it a little more palatable. But I will say that the central home invasion scene in Clockwork Orange in the first half is always horrifically upsetting for me, and I have never enjoyed it on any level whatsoever. It's always been very traumatic, but I just kind of sat through it because it's like, this is Kubrick, right? He's supposed to be a great director, and this is supposed to be one of his best films, and so I was detached from it. Now, I have since seen people remake that scene in like a sweeted, like amateur style, and I think the act of remaking it is not necessarily an endorsement. They say retweet is not endorsement. I think that what it does in a way is that it kind of takes the power back by remaking it and doing it your way, not staging it the way Kubrick did, not indulging in the perversity the way Kubrick did. Because one of the fucked up things that I read about that scene is that Kubrick was laughing during that scene when his actor Malcolm McDowell was kicking the guy and singing in the rain at the same time, and Kubrick had to stuff a handkerchief in his mouth to keep from laughing, which gave Malcolm McDowell a lot of confidence to do the scene. So, you know, Kubrick isn't an idiot. He knows what he's doing. He knows how to manipulate people. He knows how to manipulate actors. That's kind of what you have to do as a director. And you really are sort of beholden to your own moral code when you have that kind of power that Kubrick had. He had the backing of Warner Brothers. He had the endorsement of Jan Harlan, his brother-in-law. He was on top of the world power-wise. And what he chose to do with it was make an uncompromising film on his terms on a difficult book that no one had adapted before. And what Kubrick did is he made an incredible piece of modern art. I was also thinking about the film Blue Velvet. Now, look, I've been on a dark kick lately. I was talking about Come and See. I was talking about Fight Club. I just talked about Clockwork Orange. Now I'm talking about Blue Velvet. So Blue Velvet is sort of like David Lynch's foray into what goes on in the suburbs underneath the cloak of normalcy and what happens in people's homes that people don't talk about, but kind of everybody sort of knows. What is the seedy underbelly of American suburbia? And David Lynch is such a uniquely American director, you know? I mean, he's got a very American name. There's nothing ethnic about the name David Lynch. As far as I know, both of his parents were American. But he's such a uniquely European artist. And he was so well liked in Poland, which is where a lot of my heritage comes from. So David Lynch, he explored outsiders. He explored in Twin Peaks, which is kind of like his masterpiece. He explored the darkness underneath all things. This pervasive darkness. There is a layer of happiness that envelops you. But what I was trying to do with Blue Velvet was to explore there's this dark web underneath all things. Anyway, that's my David Lynch impression. So David Lynch, I have always kind of gravitated towards Blue Velvet as the statement of choice that Lynch created. Now, I'm not alone in that. David Foster Wallace was a very outspoken proponent of Blue Velvet, and Lynch in particular. And David Foster Wallace says, you know, we got to let the weirdos that make films do it. And we've got to let the artists tell their stories. And in a way, getting them out into the culture like that, I mean, it could be good. It could be good. It could be good in a way to exercise, not like bench press, but like exorcise demons, drag things into the light, expose the shadow side of society. For Lynch, it was self-therapy. Does it help the society at large? I'm not sure. I mean, I'd be interested to know what you guys think about that. There is a question, though, that Clockwork Orange poses for somebody who maybe is seeking to develop like a philosophy of life, which I have long done. And that is, what is morality? And is there a moral compass that everybody follows? Well, look, no, there isn't. And it's really up to us, individuals, to do what we think is right. And, you know, I grew up watching Star Wars and Indiana Jones, and these are all movies that are essentially the hero's tale. And they're about a hero like Luke Skywalker or Indiana Jones who faces insurmountable obstacles and risks life and limb in order to do good. And like, I played Super Mario Brothers as a kid. You know, the idea was save the princess, you know, defeat Bowser. And And all those kind of youthful fantasies kind of give a person hope. And as an adult, not to be preachy, but you have to find your own way. You have to find your own hope. And you have to find the things that you think are worth fighting for. And you have to measure the consequences as well. Is this, as they say in the South, is that pearl worth diving for? Pearls are seductive. Pearls of the deep. They go down deep down in the water, and you could drown if you go after them. Is it worth it? Well, sometimes you have to have a near-death experience in order to determine if it's worth it. Is it worth drowning for? You almost drowned just now. Do you want to keep drowning? Maybe not. So those are my thoughts on some of the most difficult films that I've used to watch, and I watch them over and over. I watch Blue Velvet a lot. I watch Clockwork Orange a lot. I even watch Fight Club a lot. And, these are all movies that uniquely American, made by American directors, though in the case of Kubrick, he expatriated to England. But they all kind of deal with darkness as a theme. And really, darkness is no fun in real life. It's not something that you really want to have next door. Those are my thoughts for this PJB Film School episode. Let me know what you think. Is Clockwork Orange a film that we should cancel? Should we keep watching it? Tell me what you think. As always, like and subscribe. Share this video with somebody if you think that it might benefit them. All right. See you later.